Welcome to Adventures in Storyland, where we retell classic fairy tales and sometimes I share some of my own writing. Today we'll be doing the 12 Dancing Princesses as retold by me, Ingrid Andersen. Once upon a time, there was a king who had 12 daughters, each more beautiful than the next. They all shared a sleeping chamber in which their beds stood side by side. Every night, once the princesses were safely in their beds, the king would bid them good night, then lock and bolt the door. But every morning, when he unlocked the door, he saw that their dancing shoes were worn through. When he asked them, the princesses said that they did not know how it happened. And indeed, the girls seemed weary and strangely out of sorts. Then the king caused it to be proclaimed far and wide that whosoever could discover where the princesses danced at night should choose one of them for his wife and be king in due time. However, whosoever came forward and had not discovered it within 3 days and nights should forfeit all titles and money he had and be forced to work the king's fields as a lowly pauper instead. It was not long before a king's son presented himself and offered to undertake the enterprise. He was well received, and in the evening was led into a room adjoining the princess's sleeping chamber. There was no bed in the room, only a hard chair from which he was to observe where they went and danced. In order that they might do nothing secretly or go somewhere unobserved, the door between the rooms was left open. But it was not long before the prince felt his eyelids grow heavy, and he fell asleep. When he woke in the morning, all 12 princesses had been to dance, for their shoes were worn through once more. On the second and third nights, it fell out just the same, and so the prince was forced to forfeit his titles and money, and had to work the king's fields. Many others followed to attempt the task, but all came to naught, and the king soon had more field hands than he needed or wanted. Now it came to pass that a poor soldier, who had been wounded and could no longer serve in the army, found himself on the road to the king's city. When he was hungry, he sat down to eat what little he had, but no sooner had he opened his pack than a bent old woman shuffled by. The soldier, being a kind man, offered to share his meal with the woman. As they ate, the woman asked him where he was going, and the soldier replied, "I hardly know myself." Then, light-heartedly he added, "I had half a mind to discover where the princesses danced their shoes to holes, and thus become king." Then the woman said to him, "You have been kind, and so I will tell you this. You must not drink the wine you are brought, and you must pretend to be sound asleep." With that, she gave him a cloak that would make him invisible, so he could follow the princesses unseen. Thus prepared, the soldier set out in earnest and went to the king, announcing himself as an applicant. He was as well received as the others and given fine food and royal garments. In the evening, he was brought to the antechamber by the princess's room, where the princesses were already mostly in bed. However, before the eldest princess went to bed, she brought him a cup of wine and stood waiting for him to drink. Warned by the old woman, the soldier only pretended, instead allowing the wine to run through his beard and into a sponge he had fastened there earlier. Then he pretended to let his eyelids grow heavy, and soon he was snoring as if in a deep sleep. At the sound of his snores, as if pulled by magic strings, all 12 princesses got up and began to laugh and dress themselves in their gowns and dancing shoes. Through their merriment, the soldier heard one of the princesses say, "Alas, in 3 days it seems our father will have another peasant." The eldest, looked sadly at the form of the sleeping soldier and quietly sighed. Pity. I like the look of this one. He has something kind about him. But as soon as they were dressed, she rapped 3 times on the post of her bed, and there opened a door to the realm of fairy with a long set of stairs. The princesses quickly descended the stairs, and the soldier hastily donned his cloak and followed them unseen. Only once, in his haste, he trod on the hem of the youngest princess, and she cried out, quite frightened. Yet as soon as she was no longer hindered, she and her sisters moved on, as though they did not even remember the pause. At the bottom of the stairs, the soldier marveled at the sight that met him. A forest made entirely of living silver. Every branch, every leaf, each blade of grass and blooming flower shimmered and shone. I must bring a token back with me, or nobody will believe my tale, thought the soldier, and quickly bent to pluck a silver flower growing there. It came away with an audible snap, and once more the youngest cried out in fright. But within moments they all rushed on, all fears forgotten. Next, they came to a wood made entirely of gold, so intricate and fine that no human hand could hope to replicate it. Here as well, the soldier sought to bring a token with him, and as before, the sound frightened the youngest princess, but only for the briefest of moments. Then they came to a glittering forest made entirely of diamonds. Though no sun shone, an ethereal glow made every leaf and branch throw light, so that it seemed 100 suns were shining at once. Also here, the soldier gathered a token with the same effect. At last, the princesses arrived at the shore of a deep lake where purple waters lapped, and 12 handsome young men waited with a rowboat for each. The soldier hurried into the boat of the youngest, and the young man wondered at the unusual heaviness. But once they arrived on the opposite shore, all was forgotten, and the 12 couples entered a splendid, glittering palace. There they danced and laughed, and when they were thirsty, they drank from golden goblets that were never empty. The soldier watched in wonder unseen as the king and queen of this fairy realm entered the hall and in turn kissed the forehead of each princess and each young man, then sat on their thrones to watch the dancing. Quickly, the soldier made his way to stand just near enough to hear their conversation. I don't like it, the queen was saying. Something is not right. I feel it. Don't fret, my beloved, the king responded. Only drinking water from our enchanted goblets will break the spell. Only drinking water from our enchanted goblets outside our realm can break the spell. And in a few short days, it will become permanent, and we will rule. When the soldier heard this, he turned to watch the princesses once more. And as he did, he could see through the young men's glamour that they were in fact fae-kind, with purplish faces and ragged wings, staring hungrily at the princesses in their arms through solid black eyes. I must find a way to bring one of those goblets with me, thought the soldier. But at that moment, a far-off rooster crowed, and the princesses rushed so quickly toward the boats that the soldier barely had time to get into the boat of the eldest princess. Fortunately, the princesses moved more slowly through the forest, and by the time they reached their chamber, the soldier was back in his room, fast asleep. The soldier felt it best not to speak too soon, and the next night passed much as the first. But try as he might, the soldier could not lay hands on a single goblet. The third and final night before the soldier must give answer or give up the last of what he had, he once more followed the princesses through the glittering woods to the castle of the Fae. Determined that he would succeed, the soldier had concealed under his cloak a mouse he had managed to catch that day. As the princesses were pausing to drink between dances, the soldier let the frightened creature go right next to the youngest princess. As he had hoped, the easily startled princess cried out and dropped her goblet. Before the goblet reached the ground, the soldier snatched it and, quick as a thief, fled to a quiet corner. Like she had before, the enchanted princess at once forgot that she had cried out or been startled and began to dance once more. Soon the crow of the rooster rang out, alerting the party that dawn was near. Swift as birds, the princesses rushed to the boats, and the soldier followed. Once more they found him in deep sleep by the time they returned to their sleeping chamber and clambered into bed. When the appointed hour came and the king summoned him, the soldier brought forth the silver flower, a golden twig, and a sprig of diamond, as well as the enchanted goblet. He showed them to the king and poured out the full tale. But the greatest burden of proof shall come from your daughters. Please bid them come hence and drink water from the goblet in hopes that their enchantment might be broken. The king summoned his daughters, and as soon as the cool water touched each of their lips, it was as though a veil lifted and their eyes cleared. They looked in wonder at the tokens the soldier had brought, and could at last remember their nightly adventures. The grateful and joyous king asked the soldier which of the princesses he would like to marry, and the soldier responded, "Your eldest looked on me kindly, even through her enchantment, and as I am no longer quite young, I ask you, give me her." The princess was pleased with this as well, and the wedding was celebrated soon after. The decrees to crown the soldier after the king's death were written down and made into law. The doorway to the kingdom of the fairy was sought, but not found, and so they believed it may have closed permanently when the princesses were freed. In due time, the princesses each found their happy endings, and under the rule of the brave and kind soldier, the kingdom prospered, and life was good. The end. For now. Snip, snap, snout. Now the story's out. Tip, tap, tin. Soon a new one will begin.